Okay, let's get into files. It's a pretty powerful area of Python. Um, what I'm doing first, I'm looking through my folders and I'm finding some text files. We're going to be reading, editing text files, things like that. Um, so here I'm looking through, I see words. This is the list of all those words in the English language. I think all the Scrabble words maybe or something. Forget exactly. And I remember the name of it is words. So two things you need to know: the exact name of the text file, and we're looking for things that end in .txt. That's a text file. Um, and we're also looking for the location. So I'm in the P drive at this point, and that's important. So when we open a new Python file, make sure we're opening new file. We're not in the shell. If you're in the shell, go to File and then File New, and then open a file like this. The first thing you want to do is save as. Make sure it's in that same location as the text file that you want to work with, wherever that may be. So I am in my P drive, not in any subfolders or anything. So you can give it a name here if you want. This is what you'll be submitting in general. So name it something appropriate. Don't name it the same name as your text file. That can get into some tricky stuff. So do choose a different name other than the name of the text file you're going to be interacting with. Now, you don't always have to have a text file created. There's lots of different ways we can even create files that don't exist and things. But for now, I'm just going to show you some things with ones that's already created. So I'm going to click save, and here we go. So when working with files, there's a couple different ways to work with them, and you'll see different ways even in our textbook where it'll say like file.open or file.close. The best practice is to do with open, and then you'll put the name of the file, whatever that may be. Notice that that's inside quotes, could be single or double, doesn't matter. And then we have a couple different options. So read, write, and append are our main options. I'm just going to start with read. I am going to put a plus. So whether you use R for read, W for write, or A for append, if you give it a plus, it does give you some options from the other modes. So what are these three modes? Read mode allows you to pull in any information from a text file, but you can't edit anything in the file, which might be nice. You might not want to like risk editing something in an important file because you're now moving into an area of computer programming where you could do some damage. I mean, I could read a file that I've written for some class or something, and I could overwrite it completely using these codes. So read mode makes sure that I don't edit anything. Read plus is similar, but it does give me a little editing power. Next is append. So append, the idea is you're not actually changing any of the text that exists there, but you're adding to the end of it. So append, you're not changing it, but you're just putting it. So if you think about like maybe you're monitoring your runs or your weight training or something like that, and you don't want to delete anything from above, but you want to add more lines as you work out more or run more or something, that would be a good place for append. And then finally, write. So write mode, the whole idea is that you're going to be going in there and editing and interacting, or maybe even just creating a new file. So write is the heaviest in terms of powers for editing the file. Okay, so let's take a look at how to do this with open. Where's that? Notice that the read plus is also in quotes. That can be hard to remember. And then we're just naming what is called a file wrapper right now. You can call it F or G or H. It doesn't really matter. But this line, you should do exactly like this, except your name of the file might be different, and it depends what mode you're going in. And then we'd go in and we'd say something like contents equals F dot. And again, we have a few options. Let me just show you what those options are. F dot read lines. Um, Another one that's really nice. Okay, so these are three different options. Let me just show you. I'm going to print each of those out, but I'm just going to print maybe the first 100 things in each one. So I'm going to cut and paste this guy. And we'll put, okay, and then let's run that code. So run, you can do F5 or go up and run your module. Okay, so notice that the very first thing just gave us the first 10 or whatever, 100 characters, because what it was is a string. So that first code that we did right here, this saves it as a string, and it saves it into this variable name. So at that point, it's exactly like any other string that you've dealt with. You could do slicing, you could do skip values, start and end values, look at a specific character. It's just one massive string. The entire text file has been saved as a string. This one right here, okay, we need to, I see the problem here. Let me talk about what's going on here. So inside your text file, there's a cursor, and when you first open a file, like right here with this line, the cursor is going to be at position 0 at the very top left of the file. As we read it here, the cursor zips through the file and it's creating a string, but it's going to end up at the end of the file. So then when I call this second line, which should save file with each item as a line. So it's just going to go line by line through the text file, and each of those lines get saved as an item. But the problem is, unless you put that cursor all the way back at the top left, the cursor is going to be at the very end of the file, and so it's not really going to pull in anything. So by putting this f.seek 0, that tells the cursor to go somewhere. And so we're telling it to go back to position 0, which is the very beginning of the file. And then we should be able to see with the read lines. Now this one, notice that we use that same thing, putting it into a string, and then we do split lines. So let me show you, let me just run this and show you the difference between what those look like. Okay, so the first one was the string that just gets printed out. The second was the list. So we have an entire list. Notice what's at the end of each item in the list. So the very first line in the file is the word AA, which is apparently a word. I don't think it's an abbreviation for Alcoholics Anonymous. I think it actually is a word, something. But this right here is our new line character. So when you have this file, this text file, at the end of every line, when it converts it to a string, there's going to be a new line character. Now we don't see that new line character right here in the string. It's there. We don't see it because Python's just interpreting that new line character as pushing it down. Because in a string, when you see a new line character as part of a string, it's going to just create like that. It'll send the text down to the next line. Whereas here in the list, we can see that new line character buried in there. Now this could be a problem because if we're searching through the list and say we're looking for something like abbreviate, we're not going to find the string abbreviate as one of the elements in the list. We're going to find abbreviate with the new line character after it, because it's saved, each line is saved exactly as it is, which includes with the new line character. So that's why I often like this final way. So this gets a string first, but then it uses this split line. So it essentially creates a list. So instead of just having one massive text file, which could be good for certain things, f.read split lines will create the list with every line from the file as an element in the list, and it's already taken off all the extra space at the end, which includes a new line character. So if I go back to this right here, this save file, me caveman, saves file as a list that is prettified. No new line characters. All right, and prettify is actually a command in something called Beautiful Soup when you work with internet files, so I didn't just make up that word. So that's 3 different ways to read in. Once you've read it in, you can do anything you want. This right here, contents, would be a string. This would be a list, and this would also be a list. So anything we've done with strings or lists, you can do that. And notice that once you go back out to the left margin, you've now left this particular with suite. Everything that came after the colon was indented. So when we go back out to the left margin, the file will automatically close, and this is the advantage of using with instead of f.open, f.close. If you do that, you have to remember to close a file or weird things could happen. So this automatically closes your file, so it's clean, but you can still have access. It's not like a function where these variables are only living inside that function. These variables here are living in the overall file. So I could do something here again, like print contents. Let's see what the content, the word in position 5 is. And I guess oh, H, sorry. Remember, it's one big string. It's not dividing it into words. So the letter H is actually in index 5 of that massive string right here. If we go 0, 1, 2, I guess is the new line character, 3, 4, 5. I'm not sure. Maybe that's how it gets to 5 because of the new line character. Okay, so those are the 3 ways to read files.